Tonight we're speaking with Kenny Metcaff, and Kenny, you're an Elton John impersonator, am I correct?
That is correct.
And I guess, the tribute scene out here in LA has gotten really big, and you're probably, right now, the only Elton John tribute out here. I can't think of another one off the top of my head, so I guess the best place to start this interview is, how did you first get into the music of Elton John?
Well, Elton was actually an inspiration for me to be a piano player.
Okay.
From way back, and so he was the reason that I started that. But as a tribute, it was 5 years ago, and a friend introduced me to the fact that tributes were playing the same kind of venues I played in the '80s when I was touring with a band called Stryper.
Wow.
And so I was their original keyboardist in 1985 for their live tours.
Okay, wow.
So 85 and 86 tours with Stryper. And so anyway, he said they're playing places like the Grove, they're playing, Starlight Bowl, really nice, and Performing Arts Center. So anyways, he said, you always kind of sounded like Elton, why don't you give it a try, So I said, all right, let's do it. And I proceeded to record Goodbye Yellow Brick Road. I'm a keyboard player, so I laid all the tracks down and recorded them, and then sang the vocal tracks behind it, and I sounded like Elton. So that kind of launched the whole thing. The only thing that I didn't really realize was Elton's voice changes so much from song to song to song that it gets grungy, gritty, it's creamier, it's all kinds of stuff, and so there's a lot to doing it, and so it's still a continual learning curve after 5 years.
Yeah, one thing to me I really love about Elton John music is as a keyboard player, you probably heard this. There are those people that believe keyboards don't belong in rock music. But to me, you take a guy like Elton John, or even John Lord from Deep Purple, and these are two guys that just prove otherwise, that keyboards really can make music rock, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, well, in the 70s when I was out there playing Elton John and learning his music, I was a drummer for 10 years before playing piano and synthesizers and stuff like that. But a guy walked into the drama room that I was in high school, and he started playing Benny and the Jets on the piano, and that was the #1 song at the time. And when he did that, every girl in the room got up and went around the piano and started singing with him. And I literally had never had that kind of an effect on a girl while playing drums. So I went home, and it was inspiration to learn how to play. And about 6-7 years later, after graduating high school, I'm on the road with Stryper. And playing in a heavy metal band, doing 4-part harmony for them, and playing all the synth parts to make them sound like their album.
Yeah.
In rock and roll, piano's got its place. It's always been there. It was there before all the radical electric guitars. You have Jerry Lee Lewis, you have all, so it's like the people that say those things, they're just shallow, because, there's, piano's been in rock and roll since the days of Elvis and beyond.
Yeah. So me being a huge Stryper fan, I got to ask you, how did you first hook up with those guys?
Well, I grew up in the same neighborhood as them, but in 1978, kind of dates me a little bit, the city we grew up in, La Mirada, had a brand new civic auditorium that they built, which is a performing arts center now, but anyways, there was a talent show, and the place seats 1,200 people, so, to just be out of high school, I wanted to play that place, and we heard there was a talent show, so I auditioned my band, wrote an original song to play in it, and Robert Sweet Stryper, which wasn't Stryper back then, it was Robert Sweet and the Firestorm Band.
Wow.
They auditioned, and Michael Sweet, I think, was like 13 or 14 years old at the time, and He came out and he was singing Johnny Be Good. And so we all competed in this talent show, and my band actually won. But about a year or two later, the Sweet brothers moved in on the same block I lived on, and we became friends. And as time went on, they were a band called Rock's Regime, and I was playing with a band called Amulet, and we were just local bands, and they were and I was the guy that actually just told them, hey, if you give your message a little more positive meaning, you guys could fly to the top, and it happened, and they did it, and so I mean, it was kind of inspirational in that way, but their conversion to Christ was their own decision. I didn't lead anybody into that. I was just the guy that just kind of shared what happened in my own life at the time. So, anyways, time went on, about 4 years, and then, they were just going on their first world or national tour, actually, the United States and Canada. And Robert asked me to play keyboards for him. And so, of course, I turned him down.
Yeah. Wow.
I really did.
Yeah.
But then my wife says, you're crazy. You go back and tell him you'll do it. So I did. And ended up, I did Yellow and Black Attack and Soldiers Under Command tour. And, heavy metal. And it was a blast. And, we shared the stage. I remember we played at the Pacific Amphitheater, and Great White opened up us.
Wow. Hey, so, and I got to ask you, when you did the live shows with Stryper, for that period that you're telling me, did you actually play on the stage with them, or were you behind the curtain, so to speak?
Well, I was right. If you're familiar with the stage, if you were looking up at the stage, you'd see Timothy Gaines on the left, and then you'd see Michael Sweet in the middle and Oz Fox on the right, Robert directly in the middle behind. Well, looking to where Tim Gaines was on the left, that stage right, I was right there in the wing.
Oh, okay.
So, literally, my keyboards, the people could see me in the audience, but my keyboards were covered. That's just how we did it back then. I was, the official, unofficial fifth member of the band. The keyboard player always has been and always will be, I guess, the unofficial fifth member. But, without that keyboardist, they can't have all that huge sound that they do in their recordings, because they grew up under listening to Kiss and Boston and, all that kind of music that had all that melodical stuff, and that's Michael Sweet's influence.
Wow.
So they put a lot of that into what they did with metal as well.
And now let me ask you, Kenny, did you kind of enjoy that? I mean, you obviously probably would have liked to have been up there on stage with the guys, but did you kind of was there a small part of you that enjoyed, being behind the stage, so to speak, where, you could actually go out, unlike the other guys, because you probably didn't get as recognized?
Well, the people that were at the show, they knew who I was, because there were all kinds of articles, from the very beginning, written about some guy that walked into their garage and shared Christ with them.
Oh, okay.
And then all of a sudden, when they hit People magazine, my name went out, and they let my name out, and I was in the pictures with them, 1986 of April. We were in People magazine, and there I was. And so, it gave me notoriety from that standpoint, but people always recognized me after the show, because, they're looking at everything besides the guys. They're looking at all the guys playing. They knew I was playing keyboards, and, So, I would meet people, but, I could walk around and not get mobbed like them, and I didn't have to wear spandex. I just, dressed casual because I was standing behind 3 tiers of keyboards.
And
they were covered. So.
Yeah, now getting back to Elton John, I'd like to ask you, because, to me, there's kind of, 2 eras of Elton John. I mean, me, myself, I kind of prefer the stuff he did back in the 70s, and even the, early 80s. There's a little more of a harder edge to it. And then you got, stuff like Candle in the Wind, and some of the stuff he does today as, a little softer. Do you have a preference, one over the other?
I like the early stuff. The original name of my band was Elton, the early years. And it was because I preferred the early sound of Elton, and that was one of the things that I was able to do that I'd heard other Elton tributes out there they couldn't do. They sounded like Elton sounds currently today. And to have that younger voice and be able to hit, Bit by Yellow Brick Road, I can still do that at my age, and, which is, I consider that a blessing to be able to do that, that I'm a high tenor, and can sound like him and have that grungy extra little sound that he had when he was young. And so, I like those years, but we changed the name about a year and a half ago to Kenny Metcaff as Elton and the early years band.
And I imagine, going from, touring with Stryper, where you're kind of, like we're saying, playing kind of in the back of the stage, to being the guy that's doing Elton John these days, and you're kind of, you're the main guy that everybody's looking at. You're center stage. What's that been like for you?
Oh, it's just been fun. I mean, yeah, to be the, there were times on the road with the guys that, they went places and I had to stay in my hotel room.
Yeah.
They were the band, and so I just figured all those years it just was grooming me for, allowing me to, hone my skills better. And, I'll tell you, play Elton's really, he's a fantastic piano player. And, I was a good synth player as well, but, he just made me a better, because as I was learning his music and the way he plays his chords and things, it just made me a better player overall. And so now to be able to, I show up at a venue, and it's just like, it is deja vu for me, only different, when I show up at a show, like when I was playing with Stryper, because, I played to 15,000 people.
Yeah.
And when I played with Stryper, the most I ever played when I was touring with them was 12,000. And these people came to see me, and it just blows my mind, from that aspect. But it's a blast, it's fun, but it's continual work, because it's not just something that, it's not a garage band thing, it's not a cover band thing, because I have to vocally sound like him. I have to have, the investment into the costumes to recreate what he wore. I have to have his mannerisms down, and then, actually when I walk on stage, I'm completely British. So, I had to study his speaking voice as well. And so it's acting, it's being a musician, and it's theater. So a true cover band that goes the extent, it's musical theater, which takes us back to the 70s when they did like Rocky Horror Picture Show, or when they did Tommy. The live productions of those things, that's musical theater. Well, that's what a real tribute is. It's because they take everything to the 10th. Not the 9th, they go to the 10th. They take it to the extreme to recreate. And if you've ever seen a movie like the Buddy Holly story, or any of those rock and roll stories, right? Or about an actor. Well, that actor that comes in to portray that person, they have you believing you're really watching that person, because they studied their mannerisms, their voice, their everything about them. And that is exactly what we do. And that's why everybody can't necessarily do this, because it's just not an easy thing to do. And it's continual work. And I'll be real honest with you, I don't listen to anybody else's music. Once in a while I will, but it's very rare, because I can slip back into Kenny Metcaff mode and sound like Kenny on stage, and I want to sound like Elton. So I have to continually study his voice, even though I can do it in my sleep, but I don't want to, let the audience down, because it's an illusion that we create. And it's a lot of work, but it pays off. And after 5 years, our 4th year, we were on the World's Greatest Tribute Band, which was on Access TV, and Mark Cuban and Ryan Seacrest, along with Katie Dell, the host of the show, picked us for season 1. We didn't even go after them. They found us and offered us a 1-hour live broadcast to the nation. And it was broadcast from the Roxy, and now they're going into season 4 already, a year and a half later. Or actually, a little over a year. Yeah, about a year and a half now.
Yeah, that's become a really big thing, that Access TV show. I've seen a couple of acts. I went down there to Roxy when they were doing it there, and that's just how big this tribute thing has gone. And and it's just just amazes me. And that part of the reason I decided to do these interviews with tribute acts like you is because there's a certain percentage of people out there that they really got a misconception about tribute bands. A lot of people are under the impression that guys playing in tribute bands, they're failed musicians. They couldn't make it with their own music. But my experience, I've really seen that's really not the case. Even in talking to a guy like you, one reason I contacted you, Kenny, just looking at photos on your Facebook page, made me think, this guy, he is into what he's doing. He looks the part. He sounds the part. And I've been to shows like the one you put on, and I can say that I really got my money's worth, you know what I mean? For example, I seen this band, Hollywood Rose. They're a Guns N' Roses tribute out of Hollywood, and the singer looks dead on like Axl Rose 1987 all over again, and that's probably as close as I'm ever going to get to see an Axl Rose and Slash play on stage again, if you know what I mean.
Well, yeah, no, and from the standpoint of, where people think that, Lennon's 70th birthday at Club Nokia.
Wow.
So, for all those guys out there that think that we're a bunch of sellouts, we're playing places like Club Nokia and getting paid for it. Kind of how's that working for you guys, huh?
Yeah,
But at the same time, we're all, and the one thing that I've learned about these guys, they're huge talent. I mean, to do what they do, to play the music precisely, note for note, not cover band style, which cover band's kind of, I want to do my thing, to show off me. To play note for note, and most of these guys don't read music, they all just play by ear. But they all write their own stuff. They've played Mick Adams from Mick Adams and the Stones. He was in a band in the 70s that toured with everybody from Three Dog Night to, so I mean, he knows everybody from that era, and he had, he was successful, toured all over the place. So I mean, I toured in the 80s with Stryper. It doesn't matter that I was a sideman for them. I still did that, and I have gold and platinum albums on my wall. I've written my own stuff, produced my own stuff. I've produced people in the studio that are huge. I mean, I produced Leon Patillo, who was one of the original lead singers for Santana. Come to my studio, my house, and I recorded him. We're all real musicians, and it's not a point of, well, we couldn't make it. It's a point of, you know what? We're having a blast. We're having so much fun acting, singing, performing, and not to like 15 people in a bar, but for thousands of people. And when we get there, even if we've never played there before, there's 1,000 people that showed up to see us, and we're headlining and walking out of there with a paycheck. So, I encourage people. You want to be a tribute, go ahead, but you're gonna sink all your money into that to be the best of the best of the best in its work. And it's not an easy thing to get a gig, and it's hard to get a gig in a casino, and it's hard, but we got all that stuff happening for us. But the tribute, they're real people. They're really great. They are the best of the best, and we've after being on Access TV, we coined a phrase called ourselves "Tribute You." Like remember Rocky and Rocky Squirrel or Rocky and Bullwinkle or whatever, and they had Moose University, Moose U. Well, we're Tribute You. And it's just a nice fraternity of those that have been on that show, because Katie Garrett does try to pick the best of the best and give them a national platform.
Yeah, and the greatest thing to me about the tribute scene, I think that's the best word to use, as you say, fraternity, because my experience has been, like a lot of these bands, more so than if you were doing your own original thing, a lot of bands, they're they network and they help each other out. Like, I know this one guy, he's in the Guns N' Roses tribute, and he's been doing this and pretty successful now for quite a few years doing the tribute thing, and he's gotten into booking his own shows, and he now calls up other bands, hey, you need somebody to help book your shows, I can help you with that, or hey, we're looking for an opening band to open our next show, would you guys like to be on our bill, and I really have been impressed how much these tribute bands, network and help one another.
Oh yeah, no, we're constantly, as we got to know each other better, there are those guys that are out there that are cutthroat. There's that in every business.
Yeah, of course.
And the music business is just that. It is a business. And so it's the same thing. We take what we do seriously. We rehearse, we perform, we perfect it as close as we can, and then we introduce it to people. But at the same time, all these guys, man, we've become really good friends because of Access TV, because once we've been on the show, we go back and we support the other bands that are coming in. And so everybody's kind of grown really close. And if there's anyone out there that's insincere or snotty or stuck up, and, you just don't deal with them. You're cordial to them and whatever, But it was great to meet them and watch them play, and I really have come across very few people that are really naughty and stuck up, to be honest with you. But we all help each other, and I pitch the guys that I believe in that are the best. I pitch them all the time. I still do it. I did it today. I did it this week. I do it all the time. I pitch them. If somebody's looking for a Stones act, or they're looking for David Bowie, David Brighton's the guy.
Yeah.
U2, Hollywood U2, they're amazing. And the list just continues to go on of these guys that are just phenomenal. Which one's Pink? For Pink Floyd tribute. Alice Cooper, which is...
Alice in Cooperland, yeah.
They're amazing.
Yeah. Now, let me ask you, like, once you did the Access TV show, 'cause that's kind of a big show as far as the tribute bands and stuff are concerned. Did you notice once you were on that, you started, getting a lot more calls, people wanting you to play their venues and stuff?
Yeah, well, we got into venues that we couldn't get into previously. Casinos are very difficult to get into and to get paid well. And that opened doors, but seriously, by being on Access TV, it was because it was a national broadcast.
Mm.
Our band went national this year. So, that TV show, it launched us. It gave us
National exposure.
Not only the exposure, okay, to the TV show, and we were actually on season 1 when, they had only 38 million viewers, and now they've got their viewership has exponentially gone over the edge. Not only that though, if you go on internet and you type in on YouTube, Billy Joel, you'll see all the different Billy Joel tributes.
Yeah.
You type in Elton John, and you'll see them all, and they all call themselves the ultimate. They all call themselves the world's greatest. They all call themselves they're self-proclaimers. And I have Mark Cuban and Ryan Seacrest's name behind me, and Katie Darrell, and Access TV Network, which is also owned not only by Ryan Seacrest and Mark Cuban, but AEG. So I have their endorsement behind me as the world's greatest Elton, and they proclaimed that I didn't. And so, but I can use that title. So by being on that show, I was a huge help because I have Ryan Seacrest, Mark Cuban, Katie Darrell, and Access behind me on my name and their name behind me. And they went out and they produced. We're in volume 4, getting ready to release right now on iTunes of the Access TV, the world's greatest tribute band. And I was on volume 2. We did 3 songs. Benny the Jet, Saturday Night's Alright for Fighting, and Rocket Man. But they're in negotiation with us right now to go in and actually do an entire album under the Access TV record label. So, we have that credibility, a real record label, and the producer, Michael Vale Blum, he produced Madonna, Prince, Roger Daltrey, Kenny Loggins, the Footloose album, and a bunch of people that, huge list. He's got platinum albums all over his wall, and he went in, and we went into his studio, and that produced us. So, for those that, you want to be a tribute, you got to be the best of the best, go after it, work hard at it, never give up, and pursue the dream. Some people will hit it, and some won't, but if you sound like them, and you like them, and you've invested it, people will want to pay to see it.
Now that's pretty exciting. Now, as far as this record you guys might be making, do you know, are you the first one that's signed to their label as far as a project like this?
Well, the tribute bands, there was volume 1 before us.
Uh-huh.
What they did was they tried to take all the bands out of every season. Some of the bands didn't sign on. They didn't want to do it. When they can record their own stuff and put it up themselves and probably make more money. But at the same time, we have that record label behind us. And, unfortunately, the real world of record labels, they don't want people that are older. They want the young Miley Cyrus stuff. They want, the Justin Biebers. They're not interested in a lot of the talent that is there. And so that's where you get those other musicians that say we're sellouts because they can get it on our own. Well, I'll be really honest with you. I was not looking for a record contract. I was A&R in the year 2000 for an independent music company, and I had 8,000 artists around the world that I represented, independent artists. And I know how the music industry works. I was not looking for a record label or a record deal. But when Access approached us about doing this, it was already, they already put their stamp of approval on it and already, their name behind it. So to do this, it was more recognition, but they're also going to license the songs out to movies. They're going to, motion picture, TV.
Wow.
That's where it cost the artist. If they were going to actually have really Elton John, that would cost them a fortune. But they got me, and I sound identical to his early stuff, and so they can a lot cheaper, or the movies, and make a lot of money for us, and Access TV. So they're doing that. They're thinking about using our tracks for karaoke as well. So I mean, there's a lot of opportunity, and so people think we're sellouts. I'm okay with it. I really am.
Yeah. Like I believe I heard Jason Newsted say once, when he was in Metallic, call us sellouts. Yeah, we sell out every night or something like that. So I'm with you there.
It's fun. Yeah, man, music should be. It's like we're living the dream, and seriously, we are, because the dream that most people have. Oh, I want to be famous. I want to be rich. I want to, the rock and roll thing. Well, you know what? I get to walk out on a stage, and the place is packed. The audience goes crazy. I get paid, and I get on a bus and off to go to the next show. And so I'm living the dream, and I'm getting paid for it. So it's everything that I always wanted to do, and I get to do that. So, and I have a record.
Yeah,
so
wow.
Like, okay, I didn't even see that one coming, but it happened. And, that's to be on TV. I'm forever grateful to Mark Cuban, Ryan Seacrest, AEG, Access TV, Davey Darrell.
Oh, wow, I had no idea Seacrest was involved in Access TV. That's great. Now, let me ask you, as far as...
Yeah, he's the owner. Him and Mark Cuban are, and AEG own Access.
Now, as far as you were saying, the Volume 1 they put out, I understand that's like, where they take like a couple of songs from each of the live performances and they released it like that. Now, this record you're talking about, would this be where you guys would go in and like re-record, like studio versions of Elton John songs, or would these be from your live performance?
No. In fact, what we all did, volumes 1, 2, 3, and 4, it's all studio.
Oh, okay.
So we're going in and remaking the songs to sound, identical to them. We took a few liberties because we found some live stuff. We found a live version of Benny and the Jets that Elton did when he played at Central Park in the 80s. So we did that version, but we started the song similar to what he did on the album, but we recorded it to sound identical. So when you hear it, you hear Benny and the Jets start, but we played the intro and extra line through. When we get to the solo part, we extend the solo longer, like Elton did in Vamp It, identically to what he did. And actually, his solo is an extra 7 minutes long, and I gleaned from that 7 minutes and added about another minute's worth out of that, and then wrapped it up. And then we brought in a 64-voice choir behind us. But when you listen to it, it's stellar. Rocket Man, we did it to the T. It sounds just like the album. But Benny and Jets, we took a little liberty on, but it just sounds awesome. But it was off of something that he actually did. Nick Adams and the Stones, their version, they did Give Me Shelter. Oh my gosh. Close your eyes, you're listening to Mick Jagger.
Wow.
It's that good. But it was all studio stuff. So yeah, if we go back in, it's another studio, recording that we'll be doing. They're not using any of the recordings from the TV show live.
Oh, okay, cool. And so, is any of this stuff available now? Like, is it like just available digitally? Could people get actual CDs? Do you know what the deal with that is?
Well, the reason I want us to go in and actually do albums is so that we can actually each have our own albums and take them with us, sell them as well, and they'll make them available, via Amazon or wherever.
Oh, that's cool. Now,
right now, everything is on iTunes, Spotify, I think, and it might actually be even through Amazon. But Access, AXS TV, world's greatest tribute bands on iTunes, and you'll find us. Kenny Metcaff is Elton, in Volume 2. But you got Gwen Stefani, No Duh was on there. They're amazing. Michelle from Belladonna, amazing. Just the bands that are on there are just they came off and they did it great and reproduced the stuff and we all went in and did like 3 songs in like 2 days.
Wow, and now Kenny, I got to ask you if you could help educate me here, because like typically I would think like if you were, for example, going to the studio and you're going to cut like or even have a track on an Elton John Tribute CD or something like that, typically, being that Elton's the guy who wrote the songs, he'd be getting a huge percentage of whatever the tribute CD made. So, even though you guys are the performers, how exactly is it that you guys, get the money, which I think, you deserve it? I was just kind of wondering if you could educate me on how that works.
Well, the way the contracts work out, I mean, money's going to Access TV, money's going back to the producers. So, I mean, they have to recoup their costs.
Yeah.
And once they recoup their costs, 50% is what we get of the profit.
Well, I think, wow, that's a great...
They're not, like I said, it's just not about selling, the songs on iTunes. They're going after motion picture soundtracks. They're going after, they're using all their influence to market this in every way that they can.
I mean, that's a great thing for everybody because, I mean, like I said, typically, you having a song in a tribute CD or something like that, you typically wouldn't even get paid for it. It's just, we're going to have your band record a track, and, Elton John's a songwriter, so him and his record company be making the bulk of the money. I think it's a great thing what they're doing, you guys getting your music out there and you're getting it heard and getting a little piece of pie, which you deserve.
Well, yeah, you know what, and Elton still does get paid,
Of course.
He still gets paid, and the publisher gets paid for whatever, royalties they got coming. So, I mean,
everybody
they're
wins.
all getting their piece of the pie still, but Access is really cool about giving us 50% of the profit. And so, we were fine because we had nothing going in, so, I mean, if we got nothing out of it other than just the publicity and the exposure, that's still going to bring us work, which is going to make us money. But we're going to make money on this, too.
Yeah, and if you think about it, I mean, if you think about it, Access TV, if they were like most corporations, they could have been like, well, we're taking 75%, you're only getting 25%. So I think it's cool that they're, splitting with you guys kind of 50-50. That's not something most record companies would do.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
And let me ask you, getting back to like when you first started doing Elton John, I was curious. How long did it take you to like really kind of hone your craft, if you know what I mean? Get down to where you felt, okay, I look the part, I sound the part, I'm ready to go on and do my first performance as Elton John.
I spent somewhere between 12 and 14 months putting this show together. That's from studying Elton. I mean, thank God for YouTube,
Yeah.
I never went to an Elton John concert when I was younger, never did. So YouTube was like the thing to, you can look it up and you can see video and see his mannerisms, see the costumes, find books and recreate. But it literally, Elton had so many different costumes. I've got like 12 pairs of platform shoes. I've got 12 different costumes, and each costume costs about $1,000.
Wow.
I bling all my own stuff, and that saves me money. But, rhinestones and stuff aren't cheap.
Of course.
But it's part of what I need to do to make the show work. So I spent 12 to 14 months putting the show together, putting the costumes together before we played our first show. And then our first show was actually an outdoor event in Hermosa Beach, Hermosa Festival, and there was always like 4,000 people directly in front of us, but there was a continual 40,000 people moving the entire 3 hours that we were there. So that was huge exposure, because we had to do 3 one-hour sets. That was our very first time out. And but from that, I got booked to play Club Nokia with the Fab Four. And it's just been, taken off like a jet plane ever since. And then, after 3 years, Katie Darrell contacts me, and we want you on our TV show. Are you interested?
Am I interested? Yeah, wow.
So, but I mean, it's a continual practice. And, I don't want to get sloppy. I don't want to, you're going to make mistakes. Every show is different. There's always something goes wrong. From the sound people that are running the boards, sending you a mix, or, equipment failing, and it's how do you handle that when that happens that makes the show go on, that the people feel comfortable, and, you make it seem seamless. That is experience.
And so typically
there's no downtime in a show.
Yeah, so typically when you do a show, like I think you have one coming up in Anaheim in a couple of weeks, how long is your typical show? And the reason I ask is, a lot of times, like, you're not a guitar player standing up on stage, running around the stage for, 2.5 hours, you're actually sitting there in the same spot in the piano where you have to actually play the piano and concentrate on singing and and communicating with the audience. How hard is it to do all that?
Well, you know what? We play on an average a 90-minute show and anywhere from 90 to a 2-hour show is a regular gig for us. And keep in mind, the piano, if you're thinking Liberace, or something, it might be a little bit more fluid, a little less stressful, maybe.
Yeah.
But at the same time, Elton was up and down and jumping, and I have to. It's a percussive instrument, so I'm beating the
keys
heck out of that piano all
okay.
the time. Everything is constantly moving, and so my focus has to play every note, every little lick, and then I have to sing and sound that part, and then I've got to be breathing at the same time and looking at the audience. Then I got to get up and I got to run around. My guitar players don't run around as much as me.
Wow,
They got to hold a 30-pound guitar, but I mean, which is hard enough, and they have to, execute everything that they do. My band is a sharp band. They're really some of the best players I've ever played with in my life. And I just say that because I play with Stryper, and they're really great musicians. But my band is top notch, and I'm out of breath at the end of the show. I always lose a couple pounds of water because costumes are heavy, the lights are hot, but I'm running around, and watch me doing a handstand this summer at the Orange County Fair, July 19th.
Wow. Okay.
On that show, and in fact, this is something that's really cool. From the Access TV point of view, Caleb Clay, the original guitar player for Elton, he was on the Elton John album that had your song on it. He played on Tumbleweed Connection. He played on 3 or 4 other albums of Elton's and toured with Elton when Elton played Dodger Stadium in 1975, and then he went on to tour with Hall & Oates as their guitar player. But Caleb, he joined us to close the show on Access TV, and while he was doing that, playing, Davy Johnston, the blonde guitar player for Elton.
Oh, of course, yes.
To this day, was at home watching it on TV and called Caleb the next day and said, "I want a copy of the show." And he sent us a private note on YouTube, which is up there. Anybody can see it. A special message from Davy Johnston, and it's up there. Anybody can see it. But he sent us a thing saying he was going to be watching, and the Elton's band seen us play, and it's really exciting to know that. But to have Caleb join us, he's joining us July 19th at the hangar at the Orange County Fair, and he's going to close that show out. We're going to play 4 songs with him, and then he's going to do a meet and greet. So how cool is that?
Well, that is totally cool. Now, that leads me to my next question. Obviously, like one of the reasons I contacted about doing this interview is, when I looked at the photos on your Facebook, I thought to myself, this guy just looks dead on. He looks like Elton, he's really got the part down, if you know what I mean. And so I was curious because, not self-bragging or anything, but when I look at Elton John tributes, I'm not really aware of any other ones in the LA area, at least. So how do you know if Elton himself is aware, or any of his people besides the guitar player you're saying, are aware of your act?
Yeah, I've gotten word back that he's watched us. In fact, when I first came out and we played, somebody had gotten word back that knew him and said that he watched me or listened to one of the tracks that I recorded and put up, and he said he's a bit rough, but then as time went on, we played at the Orange County Fair 2 years ago, and a friend of David Furnish, which is Elton John's husband, he was in the audience, and he was filming us on his iPhone and sending it to the south of France to David.
Wow.
And he told us, he said, "David loves you guys." And so I know that Elton's seen us, and that his whole band has seen us. We're at NAMM every year because we're endorsed with different companies. I have a piano shell company that I'm endorsed with, and Carbon guitars and amplifiers. They endorse us, Anvil Road cases, and so we're there and we're performing, and somehow I seem to always miss the guys, but they come through, and it's like, oh yeah, no, we know who he is. I get that, and I just miss, Elton's keyboard player, his backup keyboardist or something, But yeah, so it's kind of nice to get the kudos from them and to know that they've watched us.
And that's great to hear because over the last few years, Elton himself doesn't tour as much as he used to back in the heyday. I know he does his Las Vegas thing and that. So I was curious. Me myself, I'm quite surprised there aren't more Elton John tributes out here. But has that helped you? As far as getting gigs and stuff.
Well, yeah, no, because there are a few that are already established out there. There's a few that are established out there, and they've got their foot in the door wherever they're at, and so to break in there is a little difficult, and it doesn't matter if I'm better than them or not.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying I am. Once they get their foot in the door and they're established, if they're holding the crowd, the place isn't going to shake things up a little bit. So, but there's Elton John on the East Coast. There's an Elton John Tribute in Vegas already.
Yeah.
I'm still trying to get in Vegas. But we're going to be in Laughlin, so that's a breakthrough for me. We're going to be in Reno somewhere next year as well. But I mean, I've been playing, they're just great places to play. But there are, like I said, there's a few out there already, and but they don't do what I do.
Yeah.
That's the thing. They have Elton's older, when he got older, mannerisms.
I think.
I have to cut my hair to look like his hair and dye it. My hair's dark. I had to dye it lighter to look like Elton looks. So I do what I have to do.
I mean, just talking to you, you kind of remind me, it took me back for a minute because of the simple fact you were telling me when I was asking, does the guitarist sit there and playing the, piano and singing all day? And like you're telling me, well, like if you look at what Elton did back in the day, in the 70s and that, he was all over the place because even now as I sit here and talk to you, when I think of Elton John today, I got this image of, the song Candle in the Wind and, some of his softer hits, that he's done over the last couple of years. And so it's almost like two different, eras of music, if you will. And like typically when you see like Elton John doing something today, he's not as all over the stage like he would say as he was back in the 70s. So that's why I think it's great for you to be doing what you're doing because you're kind of reminding people that this is where Elton got his start and this is when he was really rocking. He didn't always just do the love ballads like he's doing today.
Oh yeah, and you know what? And for me as a kid growing up, I mean I saw the real Elvis. Okay.
Yeah.
But I was 11 years old, and Elvis did his comeback thing in 1970, and I was 11 years old then. And I was front row, or not front row, seventh row center. So I was more than 10 feet from Elvis. And then it went from there, and there was all kinds of, at that time, Elvis impersonators, and there always have been, and that's like a staple in Vegas, and it's a way to make a living and stuff. But those guys, when you go to see them, you're mesmerized. They look like them and stuff. So I mean, there's money to be made to do this if you can, if you can. There's really a lot of money to be made. But for me to do early Elton, that's where my heart is in that stuff because I loved the acrobatics. I loved the glam clothes that he wore. It was the 70s, and so for a new generation to come in that never got to see him, they walk away going, wow, there's more to life than just rap music, or hip-hop, or loops, look at this. And that's the other thing that's really awesome about tributes right now. I mean, a cover band, they play all kinds of music, and technically they're a tribute as well.
Yeah.
But they're not the the show kind of tribute like what we do, But I mean, because anytime you play somebody's music, you're paying tribute to them, technically.
Of course, yeah.
So I mean, for all those guys out there,
Yeah.
In a way, but I mean, I don't know where I'm going now.
I hear you, and I gotta say, Kenny, I really enjoyed talking to you because one thing you've proven to me that I've kind of known for a while from talking to a lot of these tribute bands and seeing them live is I can tell you're a guy that's more than paid your dues. I mean, like you've been a musician for years, I'm sure, and then your big break came, when you were touring live with Stryper, and now you're doing this. So for like you're saying, anybody who thinks that he's just trying to be Elton John or whatever. What people fail to realize is like you said, you got to look the part, you got to sound the part. Because if you just jumped on stage and you put on a plastic bag or whatever, nobody would go see the show. You got to have some level of talent, and it's obvious to me that you're a guy that's paid your dues, and even down to this Axis record deal. Like I said, that's not a typical record deal. So the fact that you'd be part of something like that just goes to show the level of talent and hard work you put into all this.
Well, thank you. My kids told me my daughter is the manager and actually the owner of Kenny Metcaff. She actually owns Elton the early years, the company that promotes our show.
Uh-huh.
So, but she was one of the background singers. She's ED in the band. But the first time I walked on stage, she says, "You can't." She goes, "The very first show," she says, "half of you was Elton, half of you was Kenny. When you walk on stage, you have to be 100% Elton John."
Yeah.
So, in the beginning, man, a week before a show, I'd be walking around and I'd be everywhere I went, shopping, in my hometown, man. I was completely British. I had to be convincing, and I had to sound the part, and I had to work on it, and I had to have that voice, and it made the difference. And so then when I walked on stage, it was believable. And so that's the thing. It has to be believable. When they walk on stage, the guys that are Axl Rose, they have to be Axl Rose. Gwen Stefani has to be Gwen Stefani. And that's every mannerism, every little thing. That's a lot of work. But it's, like I said, it's fun and it's very rewarding. And, I don't do anything else. This is what I do.
Yeah, and the great thing about that is, like I said, even the real Elton John, he doesn't tour like he used to. He does a lot of big shows in Las Vegas these days. And not everybody can afford a $500 ticket to go see Elton John, but they can get the next best thing, come see you for a little less money, and they're still getting their money's worth.
Oh yeah, well tickets sometimes are only $10 depending on the venue. Cities, we still all do the summer festivals because it's great networking and it builds a fan base, but we still get paid for that. The cities pay us. And so the public gets to come for free. But when we do those shows, that's one of the things too, is our band is actually, we've transitioned from having to play only the free venues, where the audience doesn't pay.
Yeah.
Summer festivals to, House of Blues and where we're getting paid. And we're not having to pay for play. We get paid. And so when we have a paying audience, we can play the deeper cuts too. The ones, because we know we have an Elton John fan base, and so we get to play things that are instrumentally challenging, that are deep. The songs are deeper. We don't necessarily flood a show with that, but we'll play those cuts. But when we go out and we play the free summer concerts, it's radio play stuff. It's Crocodile Rock.
Yeah.
It's Daniel. It's it's those things that you would hear on a regular basis. Candle in the Wind.
Yeah.
So, and Goodbye Yellow Brick Road. So, now we've actually transitioned to where, over the last year and a half, because of Access TV, to where we literally have a paying audience that are Elton John fans. And so now we can play anything.
And I'm glad,
That's what's really the bomb.
I'm glad to hear that, because what a lot of people may fail to realize, that's why this record deal with Axis Records really is a great thing to me, because typically bands you don't even get paid a lot of money for doing a lot of these tribute shows, because I know especially like you're talking pay to play in the Hollywood area and stuff, and places like the Whiskey, typically the concert promoter, the venue, they want to get their piece of the pie first. A lot of those places, it's like you said, you give away a lot of these free tickets to your fans come to the show because they want to make sure you can pack the house, and if the house doesn't get packed, you play that night, but well, you're not coming back here. You didn't pack the house, and that's why I think it's great what you're doing.
Well, and a lot of the bands that are out there that are, that actually, gotten successful and been able to do those shows. You've got some of them out there. DSB, they do Journey, and they're amazing. Well, they're touring all the time. Queen Nation, another great tribute. Great friends, great people. They're touring all over the place. You know, I mean, I do a show in Brea for a festival. They're paying us, and it's free to the audience. But then 4 days later, I'm flying to Georgia, or no, Oklahoma. You know, and I get back from there, and I'm going to Mexico City. You know, but I mean, you know, we've gone national, international, and we're getting flown out now, and they treat you just like they did when I was touring with Stryper. You know, like it's just amazing.
Like your royalty, and that's
it's fun. It's work. It's a vacation that you get paid for, in a way, you know?
I mean, it's a different type of music, but even, you know, you take a band like Iron Maidens, which is an all-female tribute to Iron Maiden.
Oh, yeah.
And they're one of the longest-running tributes out here in L.A., but the great thing about them is, like you're saying, they're worldwide. They've done shows where they played through troops. They've gone to Mexico, I think, you know, Germany, and all over.
Everywhere.
Yeah. And you know, that's the thing about these tribute bands. If you're that good, you know, there's money to be made. I mean, the guy that's the singer in Steel Panther, he used to go by the name of Ralph Sanaz, and he got his start doing David Lee Roth and the Atomic Punks, and for a short while he was in L.A. Guns, which, you know, the Ballad of Jane, they were once all over MTV. And the funny thing about him is he left L.A. Guns to go back to Atomic Punks because he was actually making more money doing the tribute thing, you know, David Lee Roth thing, than being in L.A. Guns. And
Brian Geller.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah, he's amazing.
And then, you know, even Bart Walsh, another guy that was in the Atomic Punks, you know, he actually, you know, David Lee Roth actually spotted him out, and he went to, you know, play with him in his solo band for a couple of years. So, you know, that's just some of the amazing stories that, you know, that I know.
Well, you know, I want to say that anybody out there that if you really want to be a tribute, go after it, you know, but be the best, you know, put your goal in that you want to be the best of the best, you know, even if there's somebody out there better, because there's always going to be a new kid on the block. Mm-hmm. Somebody's going to come out that's going to be better than me, you know? And I don't mean that, don't take that wrong, I'm saying, I expect that to happen.
There's competition.
You know? I mean, I'm at a certain level, but there's always going to be somebody better than you. There's always going to be somebody, but enjoy it while you do it. But have that attitude. I want to be the best because then that's what makes it memorable. But, you know, and we make people happy. There's nothing wrong with making people happy.
And if you got the attitude you got, Kenny, the thing about it is, you know, that allows you to stay on top of your game. I mean, it's not exactly the same thing, but you even take a band like Kiss. They've been around 40 years. You know, most bands don't have careers that last that long. You know, the fact that there is a certain level of entertainment, the makeup, whatever you want to call it, but people are still going to see Kiss, you know, 40 years into their career because they're giving their audience, you know, a spectacle, if you will.
Oh yeah.
And that's kind of what you're doing here now. Before I end the interview, I'd like to ask you, of course, this is what you're doing these days, but do you do any of your own original music or anything on the side, or is that something you did more so in the past?
No, it's what I did more so in the past, only because I don't have time to do it anymore.
Yeah.
And I really, honestly, you know, I'm a songwriter. I write progressive rock, stuff along the lines of Yes and Emerson, Lake and Palmer, and I mean, I really love writing that. But I can write any kind of music, you know. Being a keyboard player, I mean, I know how to, you know, Elton. I studied Elton. I studied Emerson, Lake and Palmer. I studied all these different guys. Yes, Toto, Foreigner, Styx, Journey. You know, the kind of music, and it gave me a platform to write all those different styles of music. And but I mean, you know, once in a while I'll sit down, I'll mess around with some of my own stuff again. But I'm so busy, and I'm so busy having fun doing all the stuff. I don't miss it right now because, you know,
you're so busy.
It's the thrill of walking on stage, and there's a packed house, and you hear the audience, and it sounds like, you know, because there's so much noise of the people having a good time and cheering and screaming, and, you know, there's nothing like it. I never felt like, I wish I could dump this gig
I think
I'm honored to be considered one of the best Elton tributes.
I think what a lot of these haters are missing out there is you know, is that simple fact that, like, where if you're doing your own original music still, you know, it might take you 5 or 6 years to get to the level in your career where you are now. Whereas if, you know, you doing Elton John, you got down your act, and you know, there's a certain you already got the audience kind of built in. I mean, there's a certain percent of Elton John fans out there that are going to come show just because they want it, because they enjoy those songs, and then they go and see you and they're impressed with your show and they come back. But you got that built-in audience, so to speak, where if you're doing your own original thing, it might take you 6-7 years just to have your first major hit, if you will.
Oh yeah, yeah. No, like I said, I really at this stage of the game, I wasn't looking for. I wasn't looking to make $1 million on selling one of my own songs and having everybody sing it 40 years from now. But when I fell into this, because I wasn't like, I didn't go looking for it, but it was, suggested to me to do Elton. Yeah. Well, once I got into it, it was so much fun. It was like, what do they say? Is the most sincerest form of flattery is, imitation, right?
Yeah.
Well, if I can be the best Elton John tribute to where, I can impress Elton, and his fans that have done it right, and that's gratifying, to make people believe that they were actually watching Elton and have them walk out. I've had people just, come up to me in tears, not because it was horrible, but because,
that good.
Brought back so many memories of, that they lived, for people that actually lived during that time, and that was their song or something, and I sounded so much like him that it just changed them, and they're hugging you and they're crying and they're saying thank you. It was so much fun, and I brought my grandkids with me, and they've experienced this, and now they want to be musicians, and that's one of the things that I've come to find. That's what's so great about tributes, is because the genres of music that are out there, people are seeing, what? Look at these guys play these amazing licks on their guitars. Look at these guys with their synthesizers. I mean, everything from the 80s on backwards, all the different music styles that are out there. And they're seeing there's more to it than what they're being fed on the radio.
And the great thing...
musicians coming up again. That's what's amazing. That's what tributes have done.
And the great thing about doing somebody like Elton John is, you could play with a foreigner tribute, like which you're going to be doing, when you do a show in Anaheim in a few weeks. You can play with a David Bowie or a U2 tribute or Rolling Stones. You can play with a little bit of everybody. Whereas, you're not so deadlocked into just playing with a certain type of, bands.
Correct. Yeah. And I mean, I've guest appeared in the Stones show. I've guest appeared with Queen Nation, ran up on their stage as the Fat Four, the Beatles, doing, Hey Hey Johnny, and back in 1973, let's see, I think it was 1973-74 when Elton played Madison Square Garden with John Lennon. And so reliving that and playing that part with, on stage with the Fat Four was a blast. And it's just an iconic show, and people got to relive that. And people that never saw it got to live it. So it's, as I said, it's fun. It's musical theater. That's what tributes are. And the
last thing I'd like to mention there before I let you go is I myself, because again, typically, people have a certain image of Elton John, especially if they've heard, some of the more recent stuff and, the classic 70s stuff like we're talking. I was kind of interested to learn when I was watching a recent episode of That Metal Show on VH1 where Eddie Trunk was mentioning, I think it was when Mick Mars was on, but anyways, Eddie Trunk happened to mention the fact that Elton John, he played piano on some of the T-Rex stuff, back in the 70s. I was like, wow, Elton John and doing T-Rex? I never knew that.
Oh, yeah, with Mark Bolan. Oh, yeah. Oh, my gosh.
Yeah.
Bang the Gong. He was the keyboard player in that. He played piano on that. No, you know what? Caleb Quaye, just for your listening audience as well, Caleb, who's going to be at our show, they're doing a documentary on his life because he's the guy that actually discovered Elton and signed Elton, recorded Elton's first stuff, and then ended up touring with Elton for all those years. And so, I mean, in all of that, Caleb, he's got such a history of hanging out with Mick Jagger and the Stones, Rod Stewart, Paul McCartney, the Beatles. He actually recorded the Beatles. He was there. He was one of the very first set of ears to ever hear Sgt. Pepper's before it was released. And I mean, so the history of what he was, lived through is amazing. And he tells me stories all the time because we're really good friends. And that's another thing, to grow up and one of your heroes, man, and you become friends with them. And and they play on stage with you, and they were actually the ones that played really on stage with the guy you're imitating. And it's just,
mind-blogging.
It's a blast. But Caleb, if anybody wants to meet him, come out July 19th, Orange County Fair, and you'll have a great time.
Well, I will do that, and I'm also, because I'm in there, I'm gonna do my best.